Hi there guys, and welcome to another episode of the Cover Zero Show with me, your host, Simon Conboy. Another game review here for you. This episode covering the game between the Miami Dolphins playing their first game of the season against the Los Angeles Chargers playing their home opener, having been defeated by Denver on Monday night last week. The Dolphins managed to come away with a 19-17 victory on a field goal missed with 10 seconds to go. So somehow the Chargers keep finding ways to lose these kinds of games. It's been a bit of an ongoing theme for the last 2 or 3 years. They just keep losing the close ones. As ever, I'll be going through both teams' performance and what I think I saw from them in the game plan, and then evaluating where they go from here. And there will be very little to no focus on statistics, just based on what I saw with my own 2 eyes. There's plenty of stat stuff all over the internet. It's not what I am here for. I'm here to offer you up my thoughts from what I saw. So, we'll start with the Dolphins offense, and I guess I should start with Jay Cutler, but I'm not going to. I'm going to talk about how much I love watching Jay Ajayi run. Really picked up where he left off last season. Was one of the better backs in the league last year. Just as an explosive, powerful runner, he carried that on. Without him, I don't know if the Dolphins win that performance. With the performance they put out elsewhere, I think really the difference in this game was Miami's ability to run the ball and their willingness to. I'm going to criticise Anthony Lynn soon, but yeah, the Dolphins' run game looked very good. Their offensive line was healthy, and they were able to pick up yardage in pretty reasonable chunks. The Chargers struggled to slow down this aspect of the game. You saw Ajayi running outside, inside. He just looks like, as long as he's healthy and this line can stay intact, he's going to be hard to stop. Chargers clearly made the focal point stopping him, but he's just very hard to bring down. Often just makes that first tackle and miss. I say miss, runs through or bounces off them, because there's not much making people miss, although we did see a great spin move from him, so that was nice. Something else in the arsenal you don't see too often with him. But yeah, a great performance. Jay Ajayi, clearly the player of this game. And generally, I think the Dolphins' offensive line did a really good job in this one, considering the pass rushing talent of the Chargers. I thought Laremy Tunsil, whilst he did get beat a couple of times, did an okay job. Only his first proper start at the left tackle position. I think you can see the promise there. Certainly, you can see moments of athletic greatness from him. Juwan James did a much better job in pass protection, I thought. Melvin Ingram's going to make his plays, as is Bosa. Thought Bosa was pretty quiet again today, but Ingram, that dude's a menace. Not heard anything on his injury, so hopefully it was nothing significant to that, and he'll be able to carry on with his great start to the season. And the interior, they did a good job, opened up some holes. They've got to be happy to see how Pouncey played. When he's on the field and healthy, this offensive line looks really good. Bushrod got beat horribly on one play though. But Cutler's mobility was quite impressive. He managed to escape a lot of pressures, a lot of sacks, made good decisions with when to run and where to run with it, and kept his eyes downfield throughout this game. Had they had a less mobile quarterback, I think for example, if Matt Moore had been in the game, I think the amount of pressure that the Chargers were able to get would have been far more telling and resulted in some pretty disastrous plays. Cutler played a very controlled game, which is not something you can say particularly often. Didn't take too many chances. The first half of this game, I mean, it was pretty ugly, to be honest. Both teams incredibly conservative in their passing games. In the first half, the Chargers just weren't able to get anything going with the run, whereas the Dolphins were. But the passing game, it was all underneath, and by not even like the intermediate, I mean underneath. It looks like a Sam Bradford performance from 2016. It was ridiculous. Jarvis Landry getting like 2-3 yards downfield and being thrown the ball. It very easy for the Chargers to defend. Picked up a little in the second half. Devontae Parker made a couple of really impressive grabs, including one where he just took the ball, which basically should have been picked, and just stole it off of the defender's hands. Showed flashes of the talent he's got, and it seems pretty clear that Cutler's going to be more than happy to give him some opportunities one-on-one down the field this year. Kenny Stills was pretty quiet, but had the big touchdown grab. Isolated on a linebacker, he should win that matchup 1 million times out of 1 million. And he did. That was another good play by Cutler, escaping out to his right, kept his eyes downfield, and fired a pretty easy pass on the run for the touchdown. But the passing game, I like the weapons they've got. Julius Thomas did okay in his first start, wasn't targeted a huge amount. I think as Cutler's role expands, we'll get a better idea as to how good they can be. But it did feel like a very conservative effort from the Dolphins passing game, and it could have been costly. The Chargers defense, got to give the secondary credit. They did a good job not allowing anything over the top. They kept everything underneath, did a great job of stopping that in the first half. To be honest, they did an okay job on Ajayi. It's just, you've really got to, I think, dedicate yourselves to stopping him behind the line of scrimmage, because once he gets going, he's going to break tackles, and he's going to be able to grind out yards after contact. He's just incredibly proficient at that, and I don't think this team did a good enough job getting penetration into the backfield. They didn't seem to want to blitz too much, which I can understand, but I think considering what the Dolphins' game plan was in that first half, they could have took more chances, and I think it ended up costing them. They looked they looked tired towards the end of the second half. And whilst they did a great job tightening up in the red zone, particularly in coverage, it could have, I think they could have done a better job there. Their game plan was, they were daring Cutler to beat them by trying deep balls. They had the safeties there, but they were trying to force him into immediate stuff. I think they wanted to see if he was rusty. They did their best to keep him in the pocket, but weren't quite able to do so. The rush did a good enough job, even if I do think Bosa had a pretty quiet game. But yeah, their inability to just make big plays. As I say, the interception that really should have been there. It was a great play by Parker. It really was. It was in the third quarter down the right sideline. Just that would have been such a huge play in this game. Weren't able to come up with it, and that's kind of just been the story of the Chargers. I would say season. It's been the story of the Chargers for the last 2.5 years. It feels, that's about right. Just struggle to make the big plays where it counts. And they're just not getting enough impact play from that linebacker position. I think they missed Denzel Perryman. That yesterday was the kind of game where I think he'd have been a real difference maker. Would have helped massively with trying to slow Jay Ajayi down. But unfortunately he wasn't there. And as a result, defense did an okay job. But not quite splashy enough. The Dolphins, they're going to have to expand it out moving on from here. Far too conservative. That first half, they just looked very easy to defend. You can't just expect Jay Ajayi to carry you to victory every single game. He can be more effective if the Dolphins show an ability to stretch the field like they did at times in the second half. A lot of credit to Jarvis Landry. Once again, he was targeted often, and he's just a great effort player. So he's a lot of fun to watch. And I think they've got to keep hold of him. I can't see how this pass offense would function without him. He's just too large a part of it, even if they may feel like they can replace him. Moving on to the other side of the ball, the Chargers. Right, this is why I get to criticise Anthony Lynn. Why did he give up on the run game in this one? I know they weren't running it at all well, but you've got to bear in mind the state of this Dolphins linebacking group, especially with whatever the heck it is that's gone on with Lawrence Timmons yesterday that left him out of the lineup. This was a team with Kiko Alonso and a rookie middle linebacker, and you decide after a few bad runs to just give up on it entirely. I thought part of the whole point of hiring Anthony Lynn was they're going to run the ball like crazy. And Gordon was having some success in the second half, the few times he ran, him and Oliver. And, well, Oliver had one scamper, really. And as a result, I mean, that's what allowed this Dolphins team to get back in the game. The Dolphins weren't being particularly explosive on offense. They were grinding the ball down the field slowly. And the Chargers were stopping them in the red zone, forcing them to kick field goals. When you've got a 7-point lead, the other team should not be able to win in the fourth quarter because, well, without touchdowns. It's bizarre. They were trying to ice the game and they were relying on Rivers to do it. And, horrible. He's not had a good start to his coaching career. A lot of questionable decisions. Again, this team just looked messy in the 2-minute drill at the end of the game. It's like watching the Andy Reid Eagles. It's just sad. With a veteran quarterback like Philip Rivers, it's just... I had high expectations for this team, and that's just what they do at the minute. They just find ways to just disappoint you. I'm so glad I'm not a Chargers fan, because this is the kind of loss that is just so frustrating. I mean, it'll drive you nuts. Missing a field goal at the end of the game, it is a pretty long field goal. Could have got a couple more plays in with a bit of urgency, made it into a chip shot. And what were the Dolphins doing calling a timeout at the end there as well? Just baffling end to this game. That could have been a huge mistake. Yeah, I feel there was a lot of bad coaching in this game from both sides, to be honest. Whilst both defences did play pretty well. And the Dolphins, they bottled up the run really effectively. I think they demonstrated early they thought they were going to get a heavy dose of Melvin Gordon. They were run blitzing. They were firing up those A-gaps and getting there. Ndamukong Suh had a monstrous stop early in the game. I mean, damn. But the Chargers went away from it, and it made life so easy for this Miami defense. This team needs Mike Williams, because it's clear Keenan Allen just doesn't look quite himself. He just doesn't look as explosive. He's looking like a high-end possession receiver and not much more at this point. Again, another team that just wasn't willing to go deep enough. Travis Benjamin, when you look at this Dolphins secondary, I think they're there to be had, and the protection was there for a lot of this game. I really thought they'd struggle with that Miami front, but I thought whilst the Miami front played the run well, the pass rush was pretty much non-existent for the majority of this game. Rivers did have time to pick this team apart. Coverage was better than I would have expected. But just missed opportunities all across the board. It feels like the story of this game. And the Chargers missed the biggest opportunity with the field goal at the end. And clearly the plan was, early in this game, to try and establish the run and I think get some kind of play action going to maybe try and keep the pass rush honest. And neither of those things ended up being particularly just coming to fruition as you might have expected in a game like this. We thought Gordon would be able to have success. The Dolphins were not good at all against the run last year, and their linebacking crew looks like it's a skeleton crew with Kiko Alonso in it. And they got away from it so quickly, and you'd have thought the play action they'd need it to help out those tackles, but the tackles ended up doing a good job. So yeah, their game plan ended up changing, and it seemed to just be, we'll try and have Philip Rivers dinky dunk our way down the field. Love the use of Hunter Henry though. He had a good day, and he looked good. Rivers loves throwing those out routes to tight ends. It's been a staple, those kind of option routes with Antonio Gates over the course of his career. So Henry's development is going to be a big deal. This team needs to try and make the most of its explosive players, and they really did miss Terrell Williams in this game. He could have, I think, had a big impact and put a lot more pressure on the Miami defensive backs. ended up being a pretty big game for Keenan Allen, but he did it so quietly because there just were just a lack of splash plays in this game, and that was the case for both teams. It was very, very conservative. And yeah, I don't understand why they didn't run the ball more. Whether you're having success or not, you're making life far too easy for the Miami defensive plan. Clearly, the Miami plan was stop the run, and I mean they did that very effectively in the first half, and then for some reason the Chargers kind of ignored it. So you made life very easy for the Dolphins there. They could rush 4, they could sit with 7, and they could sprinkle a blitz in every now and then when they felt like they needed pressure, which really wasn't getting there. And Rivers was able to pick this team apart, but they clamped down in the red zone. Both teams did a good job of that. Teams were moving the ball down the field in the second half, but struggling to punch it in. Got a bit scrappy at times, particularly the drive where Antonio Gates scored a touchdown. Just some bad penalties on the Dolphins' defence there. This game was a little bit undisciplined at times. It wasn't of the highest standard. And yeah, again, it's just hard to judge the Dolphins on this. I'd be concerned by that lack of pass rush. That's supposed to be the strength of this team. And if they're not able to do that effectively, I think this Dolphins defence is going to have a long season. Whilst they had some success against the run today, I'm not sure that's always going to be the case, although I do like the look of their defensive tackles. With Godchaux there, and Phillips looks a little bit more motivated than he did last year. They could end up being a very good group. The corners, they gave up plays underneath, but they did a pretty solid job for the most part, stopping Rivers getting anything big. And yeah, just need to see a bit more of an impact from them in upcoming weeks. I just feel like the Chargers made life very, very easy on them, particularly in the second half. And that kind of sums up this game. It was just a bit of a strange watch, and it really did feel like it was going to be a case of the team that made a mistake lost. And in a way, well, that in the end, I think that was the Chargers' inability to just ice this game in the second half, or their lack of willingness to even attempt to. So, looking ahead for the Chargers, it's tough. That division looks as advertised this year, and with the Broncos looking very impressive so far, 0-2 looks like a deep, deep hole. I mean, you could argue the Chiefs and the Broncos have been the two most impressive teams this season so far, and the Raiders have also looked good. So, yeah, three of the 6 most impressive teams, definitely. So an 0-2 hole, down 1 in the division, against a potential playoff contender as well with Miami for that second loss. Yeah, that looks really bad. I think his injuries, this team's been unlucky again with the injuries, but this performance was not inspiring by any means. The defense looks solid, but this offense, it still looks like it's trying to find its way. And they need Tyrell Williams back. They need to get Mike Williams into this lineup as soon as they can, see what he can offer. But yeah, it feels like things might have just gotten away from this team. I'm not sure who they've got upcoming. I'm sure it probably looks ugly though, because it's a tough old schedule. But while I look for that, we'll talk about the Dolphins. Yeah, Dolphins, I think if you're a Dolphins fan, you probably feel like you got away with that one a little bit. Probably feel quite good about how Jay Cutler played. Little bit. I understand them being a bit more conservative with it being his first game with the team, but I think in the second half he kind of showed enough that you think maybe you can try and be a bit more aggressive going down the field this season than you have been with Tannehill. Cutler's a better deep ball thrower. Oh, there we are. The Chargers' next few games. That's rough. So they've got the Chiefs next week, followed by the Eagles, the Giants, the Raiders. The Chargers are going to have to improve sharply in order to save their season. So I think that's going to be very difficult. Though none of those 4 games, unless this Giants O-line continues to look like that, look look like they're going to be gimmies. So tough times for the Chargers. But yeah, the Dolphins, on the other hand, if the O-line can play like it did yesterday, I think this team's got a chance, certainly, to be in contention for a wild card spot. I would want to see the defence improve. I thought they were okay yesterday. I just feel like as I've said, the Chargers were a bit lackluster and made life a bit easy on them. Fortunately for them, they got the Jets next week, so they can basically be 2-0, and then the Saints. So I think that's those two teams that they can feel good about trying to get this passing game on track against. And we'll learn about the defence when they play the Saints. So those are going to be next week. As long as they don't lose to the Jets, I think they can feel good about life heading into what will then be week 4. Man, the season moves by so fast. So yeah, they got the win. That's how you got feel if you're a Dolphins fan. And as long as this line and the J train stay on track, then I think this team's got a lot more potential than I would have thought a couple of weeks ago. So there you have it. Those are my thoughts on the Chargers and Dolphins game. Bit of an odd one. I'm going to try and get another episode done today, although it is starting to get very dark, and I do have a lot more games to watch. So I hope there'll be the Monday night game tomorrow. I'm looking to review the Sunday night game between the Falcons and Packers, and I'll try and squeeze in a couple more if I can. Wednesday will be the round table, as always. Not sure exactly who's going to be on it, but definitely recommend checking it out. We'll be recapping each game that happened on Sunday, Thursday and Monday, and then previewing the games for the following week. There'll be some in-depth previews coming up on Thursday and Friday on the channel for the games that I think are the most interesting next week. Try and get through as many of those as I can. So check those out, and plenty of other stuff up on the channel. And if you could like, share, subscribe, check out the Patreon. It's always greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for watching. Really do appreciate it. It's been an absolute pleasure as always. Have a great evening, and go Bucks.